Okay, well, hello everyone. My name is Akhil and I'm the co-founder of Green Story. And welcome to this very special webinar series on the new normal. The series was set up to help anyone in the eco-fashion space navigate and come out stronger after COVID-19. We have a great panel with us today. We'll be hearing from 5 leaders in the eco-fashion space on the increasing challenges of maintaining sustainability in supply chains in the face of COVID-19. We'll also be hearing how brands and organizations around the world are dealing with this challenge. If you have any questions during this panel, please type them out in the question box in Zoom and we'll be monitoring this and we will get to them after the discussion. If you want to take part in the discussion online, please use the hashtag #NewNormal and you can tag us on any of the social media networks at @GreenStoryInc and we will get to you either during this time or right after. A little bit about me. I have 13 years of experience in the sustainability space, having previously worked on carbon offsets, consumer sustainability, M&A, and corporate strategy. I co-founded Green Story 5 years ago to help consumers make more sustainable choices. Our vision at Green Story is clear. It's to enable every consumer in the world to ask, what's my impact, before they make a purchase. As a company, we work with brands from startups to global giants to measure the impact of their supply chains and visualize it for their customers. As a quick example of what we do, on the right, you'll see an image, and this is a product page of one of our clients, No Nasties. We have calculated the impact of their organic cotton items, compared it against a conventional item, and shown it at point of sale through clear, arresting infographics. Without any further ado, I would like to thank this amazing panel that's joining us today. And our moderator today is Stephanie Benedetto. I'm sure you all know her, but I'll give a brief introduction anyways. Stephanie is the co-founder of Queen of Raw, a marketplace to buy and sell unused textiles, keeping them out of landfills, and thereby turning pollution into profit. Prior to this, Stephanie worked as a lawyer in the fashion media, startup, and technology industries. She has also co-founded a sustainable textile manufacturing facility. As an advocate for women in business and sustainability, she has been featured in NPR, Good Morning America, Fortune, and too many other publications to list here. She certainly comes with a wealth of experience and expertise. And with that, I'm delighted to hand things over to Stephanie. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Akhil, and thank you everyone for joining us for what we think will be an incredible panel. I wanted to kind of set the tone a little bit first before we dive into questions. It goes without saying that we are obviously in a period of massive disruption. And now topics like the ones we're going to talk about here, supply chains, sustainability, dependencies on China, traceability, waste, unused inventory, right? All of these things are all top of mind for everyone, personally and professionally. And as these supply chains have been disrupted everywhere and we're all suddenly feeling this impact firsthand, we see just how massive of an impact that we can also have on improving them going forward. And I do believe, and I think the panelists here, we've spoken about, for supply chains to be resilient and agile through this period, I think we're seeing a few things in the short and long term. On a high level, in the short term, we're obviously seeing a need for our businesses to reduce costs. Cost savings are essential to survive right now, but also then to how they're going to be able to thrive going forward. In the short term as well, we're also seeing obviously a need for materials. We need materials to fill our supply chains right now, whether it's for PPE or otherwise, to be able to make things and continue to operate our business and move forward. And then in the longer term vision, I think we're seeing the need to kind of innovate our way out of crisis. And this will include new business models and obviously the power of technology and digitization. So we're here today to talk about the challenges of maintaining sustainable supply chains through this period. Sustainability can certainly be a challenge, but we here believe it can also be the solution. And at Queen of Raw, we are focused on matching buyers and sellers around unused, wasted inventory, from raw materials to finished goods. That stuff that, because of canceled orders, are now sitting in warehouses collecting dust, or being burned or sent to landfill. And today, these materials can actually help businesses save and make money, while also still filling their orders away from areas impacted by disruption and while supporting these commitments to sustainability. We do leverage tools like blockchain and machine learning AI, which we'll dive into a little bit to accomplish that. So while I'm working on kind of solving challenges around waste that is produced at each step of the supply chain, which clearly exists more now than ever, we have an incredible panel here who are tackling different parts of the B2B textile supply chain, from manufacturing sustainable fibers to wholesale B2B apparel and accessory manufacturing to non-for-profits educating people from farm to end of life. And so I wonder now if our panel can kind of each in turn introduce themselves and maybe briefly describe an example of how you address sustainable supply chains today, and if and how you think that's going to change in the future. And because maybe you're at the top of the supply chain in manufacturing the materials, Tricia, do you mind kicking us off?
Sure, not a problem. Thank you, Stephanie and Akil, for putting this together and for that great introduction. And I love how you said, Stephanie, you know, trying to innovate our way out of the challenges that we see right now. So my name is Trisha Carey. I'm with Lenzing Fibers. I handle global business development. And for Lenzing, we manufacture viscose, modal, and lyocell. We brand our modal and lyocell as Tencel. And basically, we transform trees into fiber. Actually, I have our fiber right here. And that is used in a variety of different end-use applications, anywhere from shoes for all birds to denim applications, intimate apparel, pretty much across the board. And we're also used in non-wovens, which is a very interesting market for us right now. Lenzing at its core focuses on sustainability, and that has always been something for us that we've been working on, continue to evolve to meet the needs of the market. Since we're coming from nature, our products do go back into nature. Addressing your question, Stephanie, around supply chains and sustainability and how this is right now, I think pre-corona times, many of our brand partners, our mill partners, were building initiatives and strategies around sustainability, and those continue throughout this time. I think, you know, right now it allows us to take this pause, reset, use this time to rebuild our companies and rebuild a lot of our thoughts, to put them all down the right path. And for us at Lenzing, you know, we continue to provide fiber to our customers. Safety is of most importance right now as we look at ways that we are coming back, you know, with offices reopening. But definitely sustainability is paramount for us.
Absolutely, appreciate that. Thanks, Tricia. And maybe we'll turn it over to Vic, since now you're on kind of the B2B manufacturing piece, and then Prama, and we'll end with Liesl on the education side.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. My name is Vic Giri. I'm the founder of Gallant International, Inc. Gallant International is a private label company who specialize in organic and fair trade cotton bags, t-shirts, and accessories. Just recently, we became a certified B Corporation. Since the beginning, sustainability has been the core of our business, and we address it from the grassroots level. Traceability and transparency are some of the things that are very important to us and to our clients. Some of the ways we adopt and address our sustainable supply chains, including manufacturing our products using 100% organic cotton. Our cotton is grown in India by small-scale farmers, and they make almost 26% more than other organic cotton growers in India, including fair trade premium. Our entire post-harvest process is done through or as per global organic textile standards known as GOTS. Our partner factory is compliant to social and environmental standards set by Fair Trade USA, Fair Trade International, and GOTS. Our partner factory takes good care of our workers, and therefore employees retention rate is more than 90%. We also participate in UPS carbon neutral shipment program to offset our carbon emission created during the transportation of goods from India to the US. We had seen a very big growth in sustainable goods. We, for the last 3 years, our business and our partner factory business has been growing tremendously. But at this time, like everyone else, we all are going through rough times. And as we know, the demand is decreasing, the production is less, and the supply is being affected. Thank you.
Prama, you want to take it next?
Sure. Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you, Akhil and Anita and everyone at Green Story for doing this. Very pleased to be here. My name is Prama, and I am the founder and CEO of a company called Mantis World. At Mantis World, we supply B2B apparel into the print industry. So if you've ever bought a t-shirt with a logo or a design, maybe a band t-shirt, maybe from a particular attraction, then it may well have been one of ours. We didn't really think about sustainability when we started 20 years ago because we just thought that that was normal. And my background is from a textile family. We have textile mills in my family all over East Africa. And what I saw growing up and what I saw when I started my business, where we started sourcing from our mill in Tanzania, was just seemed normal to me. And it was only after we started venturing further out and looking for other sources that we realized that what was normal wasn't really normal at all in other areas. And so that's when we felt that we have to run our business in a way that is maintaining certain standards of ethics and environmental responsibility. So we have really taken that on board and tried to, with the right approach for each country, because each country and each region is different, we have tried to replicate the values that we have across wherever we source from. So in terms of how we address sustainability, Stephanie, we see it as a journey. So, you know, when we first started looking at it, we were thinking about simple things like child labor, which now I really don't think is much of an issue for any suppliers who are supplying into the international market. And we've taken it step by step. Started with organic back in 2005, well before it was fashionable. Started looking at what else we could do. We got the GOT certification. We moved that on to include OCS, RCS, Okotex, PETA, and recently the Fairwear Foundation. So I guess it's a bit of a hobby of ours to sort of collect certifications and memberships. Mm-hmm. What we have found is that it's really driven by personal values, and we're in a very lucky position in that we can do that. We don't have a board who are constantly asking for massive shareholder value, so we can really embrace the triple bottom line, people, planet, profit, and it just fits with our values. And you know, I'm delighted that in the last year or two that this has really taken off, and our B2B partners, our customers and their customers who previously really didn't care too much are now taking this on board very seriously. We also manufacture for brands. So if there are small brands, we can do special productions for them using our supply network. And because we hold a large amount of stock here in the UK, we can actually supply ethically made, organic, sustainably produced, transparent product with no minimum quantities whatsoever. So that's something that I think has resonated with a lot of our customers. Yeah, so we also try to educate. We try and lead by example, and are very happy to share what we believe is best practice with all our stakeholders, including our peers and competitors.
Thank you, Pram. And last but certainly not least, Liesl.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Akhil and team, for inviting me to be part of this webinar today. It's great, and I'm just sitting here watching all the chat box messages flick up and think how wonderful it is to have that sense of people sort of connecting as we run through the webinar. So yeah, it's great that great to have that live feeling. So yeah, I'm Liesl. I'm the director of materials strategy at Textile Exchange. I'm based at home like everybody else, and once again, fascinating to see us all in our home settings. I was actually at home before COVID, so my life and work experience and situation hasn't changed dramatically in that respect. Still at home. And for any of those that don't know Textile Exchange, just very briefly, we're a global non-profit, and we work with our members to accelerate sustainable practices in the textile value chain. And we focus very much on the fiber material, so the very beginning of the long and sometimes very fragmented value chain that is part of the textile industry. And what we do around sustainability is really about working with our members. So that's the brands, the retailers, manufacturers, farmers, and other feedstock providers, and a host of other nonprofits and other organizations to really find the best way forward together. So that's looking at, you know, what are the best and most robust standards to bring into the industry to drive that best practice. How do we find market solutions where there's big challenges within the sustainability area, and particularly now? So how do we come together to find those solutions? And then how do we share the risk and reward? I think that's the other big part of what we do, is to figure out, you know, how do we go with current business models to figure out the best way forward for everybody. And how has that changed under COVID? As I said, I'm home and still at home, but we've spent a lot of time over the last few weeks at Textile Exchange really just talking to our members, or more to the point, listening to our members, just hearing what's going on for them, understanding, you know, where they are in this kind of, if you like, this evolution, which is what it is. We're still in, we're probably out of the initial shock, and you know, we've started to sort of figure out where we are right now. I don't think anybody honestly and truly knows where we're going to go and where we're going to be post-COVID, whatever that means and whatever a new normal means. So for us, it's really about listening to people, getting a sense of what some of the worries are, but particularly what some of the inspirations are, and what are some of those good news stories and things that are working, and, you know, heartwarming messages that we can share with our members and others. So we can talk about more of those through the course of the webinar.
Thank you so much. And as you can see, an incredible panel here, and we have a lot to cover, but definitely feel free, to Liesl's point, to engage in the Q&A, ask questions, share with other participants. We definitely want to make this interactive. We have received some questions in advance, and we kind of thought that because of the breadth and depth of this incredible panel, touching everything from manufacturing the fibers to the actual manufacturing process of finished goods, and then going through to distribution and waste, that we would tackle it kind of in that order. I wanted to talk about first, you know, the supply chain actors who are impacted by what's going on right now, right? We obviously are seeing around the world a lot of canceled orders, furloughing of workers, and it's clearly having a massive impact on all different parts of the supply chain. I wanted to start off, if that's okay with Vic, and if you could talk a little bit about what you're seeing from the perspective of the farmers, the workers, the factories, who are impacted, and how are they feeling it right now?
Thank you, Stephanie. I think all of them, in fact. You know, cancellation of orders have affected farmers, workers, factories, as well as the people who are in business. Because of the decreased demand of organic cotton in the market, the price has come down about 20%. And the farmers who grow very little, they make on average about $1,200 a year, you know, growing organic cotton from their small farms, about 1 to 2 acres, are forced to sell at a very lower price. because they cannot hold the inventory and they need to feed their family. That is really bad for small scale farmers. Organization like Chetna Organic Agriculture Producer Company, who work with 8,800 farmers in India who grow organic cotton. Right now, they are sitting with 50% of the inventory. That what they do is they take loan from the bank and they pay to their farmers. In India, loan, the interest rate is very high, so they pay as high as 15%. Now they are sitting with the inventory because they have to take care of the farmers. They bought the cotton, but they are not able to sell their organic and fair trade cotton because of the cancellation of order or holding of all the orders. And I spoke to my partner factory and some of the friends in the industry who have factories who practice sustainable production as well as who cater to fast fashion. What I have gathered is that there is about 30% cancellation in orders from fast fashion brands. But whereas the people who are practicing sustainable production, it's only 5 to 10%. So which is good and also is not good because factory work at a very lower margin, and because they have to keep up with the certification and new compliances and new what do you call technology and other things. So it's not a lot. So so also it is having like a big impact on workers. India is in lockdown. Workers are not allowed to work. And I'm sure you have all seen in the news that migrant workers were not able to go home. They were stranded with little or no support from the government. Some of the factories paid nothing, especially people who are catering to fast fashion to their workers during this lockdown. Some of them paid 15 to 25%. But our partner factory in March, he paid entire month's salary. In April, 50%. In May, they are going to get 50% of their salary. But the people who are suffering are, I think, from the fast fashion. So I think in entire supply chain, they are seeing some of them are not canceling. They are saying just put the order on hold. Some of the products are already in pipeline. The printing is done, the dyeing is done, right? And the factory cannot stay with that inventory. So that's what's happening right now. And they have, all these factories, they work on high interest loan and, they want to keep their workers. And as I said, our partner factory, Raj Lakshmi, they've been, the workers have been there for the last 20, 30 years. It's more than 90%. And if we can keep those workers and they're not going to get that benefit, they're not going to get that working environment and they're going to suffer. So I think it is the entire supply chain. And also we have seen some of the brands who say ethical, but they are trying to be unethical in a sense that, they are, so due to lockdown, there is no production, right? So now our factory has partially opened with 1/3 of the workforce. So they want delivery right away and they want factory to pay air freight. That should have been gone through the ocean and they are asking, and factory cannot afford that. So I think the people who really say we are ethical, I think they need to be ethical. So, this is a hard time for everybody. I think we should all come together and do what is best. And that's my take. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Vic, and that makes complete sense. I think it begs the question, and I'd love to direct this to Prama, about, who is or should be making sacrifices going forward? Who will survive? It's kind of the question of, we got asked about whose baby is sustainability anyway? I mean, is it the brands and retailers? Is it the manufacturers? Is it the mills? One interesting thing I know that we've been seeing is that, workers are now going to have to, in the factories and mills, think about physical social distancing, right? I mean, if and when things come back together, and is that going to slow down the whole production process? What are you seeing with kind of sacrifices being made and going forward with the manufacturing in your partner factories and mills?
I think that's a really good question, Stephanie, and I think sacrifices need to be shared. And whose baby is sustainability? Well, it's all of ours. We all live on this planet, and everybody needs to put in their share too. So, I mean, from our perspective, when we started talking about sustainability, it was very much us leading and trying to educate suppliers, trying to challenge them, and what was business as usual. And what's been very, very interesting actually is I've had several conversations with suppliers who are saying to me, when you first started asking us about transparency and traceability and insisting on it with every PO, we didn't really understand why. It was just seemed like a headache. It was a lot of work. But actually, because we did that work with you 3-4 years ago, today we're winning business because we've already done the work for other brands and buyers who are now coming and asking the same thing. So, it's a ripple effect, and it's not always immediately apparent, but it comes through, I think. In terms of the shared sacrifice, Akhil, I'm just horrified at some of the things you've said, and I think we've all read this in the press about, big brands, insisting on massive discounts or cancelling orders that are already shipped and already on the high seas. And the supply chain that we have, the margins are not equally, shared between each actor. So why are the people at the bottom of the supply chain who have the least margin, who are at the most risk, expected to shoulder the vast majority of the burden? I think it's, I completely agree with you, Vic. It's absolutely unethical, and I find it very difficult to stomach. So, brands have gone to huge lengths to promote themselves as ethical, behaving in this way. And I suppose, just confirming what you've said, Vic, I believe it's showing us that the model of fast fashion is broken. It's broken because if everything is all about the lowest cost possible in the fastest time possible for product that's not going to be usable for very long, you have a crisis like this and suddenly the whole thing falls apart. And I think that it's really important to, we in the West have governments with resource who can, pay furlough wages, who can give us loans, who can do all that. There's very little government support. There might be some sound bites, but the reality is there's very little, if any, government support in developing countries. And I think we need to be mindful of that. Yes, we are suffering. Yes, we've seen a downturn in demand, but we're in a much, much better position than a lot of our supply chain partners. So, at Mantis World, we made it very clear, we will not cancel orders. We will not cancel any orders that are either produced or in the pipeline. We might delay some if they're not produced yet, and we certainly will not ask for discounts at this time. So, and we can do that because we're not a fast fashion brand. When we look at bringing a product in, our expectancy is that it's got to be in for at least 2 years. And we've got products that have been in the range for over 10 years. So, what, if we don't sell it this year, we'll sell it next year. And we're not having to face lots of just stock that is absolutely irrelevant anymore. It's all relevant. It will continue to be.
I love that thought. If you don't sell it today, you'll sell it tomorrow, right? I think that's, causing people to think a little bit bigger about what the supply chain actually should look like. So I kind of wanted to shift gears a little bit here, and I'll direct this to Liesl. About, we've talked about now the actors who are impacted by this and some opportunity in that, but are there also, and are you seeing with your community, any opportunities for cost savings and innovative business models to come out of this? I mean, with everything going on, is it even possible for brands to be able to, quote unquote, afford sustainability? Of course, that assumes that sustainability automatically costs more, which we know it doesn't, but I wonder if you can dissect that a little bit. And are there opportunities for brands to continue to think about sustainability, or are there resources and education they could go to understand more about the opportunities here and how they can leverage it today and continue to thrive?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And I was thoroughly engaged in Vic and Prama's experiences right within the supply chain and sort of at the cutting edge. And of course, you know, I'm not. I'm in my house sort of, but I guess what I take away is that, you know, we can't go back to that sort of business, and this is an opportunity. We're in a pause, and of course for some that pause is extremely painful, you know, waiting to see where whether your job's on the line, whether you've got food on the table, whether your product's going to be sold. It's when I say a pause, I understand that it's a tough pause for many, and, you know, not so tough for others. But of course the long-term goal is that, you know, as Prama said, we're all in this together. We're all on one planet. We're all potentially part of the same supply chain. So sort of where do you start to draw a line between, you know, what's my business and my need to be concerned, and how much is it about this joint opportunity or challenge or something that we have to deal with together. And I think for companies that are starting to think like that, and then the opportunity is to find the solution together, because, you know, as we know, and as we've already heard, I don't need to repeat it, there are very real challenges and you know, unprecedented situation that we're all in. So we, you know, and I have heard some great stories, you know, ranging from, you know, companies that are sitting down together with their suppliers, and I'm talking way back at the beginning of the supply chain, to figure out what's really needed here. You know, if I'm a brand and I'm not able to sell my product, or I'm having to deal with those sorts of issues very close to home, but what is it that I can do? How can I be most helpful in a situation with my farmers in India or in other parts of the world? What does it actually take? I might not be able to buy all your product, but maybe I can, you know, I can pre-finance the organic seed that you need to maintain your organic crops. I might not be able to lift that cotton up, but maybe I can at least get that secure, you know, contribute to the security of, and therefore hopefully the resilience of that community, so that they can continue to grow cotton, grow other crops in the organic sort of multi-crop environment, and therefore maintain some resilience. So it's really looking for what those solutions are that will require that level of collaboration, figuring it out together, knowing everybody's suffering or hurting to some extent, and then, yeah, and figuring out what we can do about it. And it will be, you know, I've heard many people tell me, it will be those companies that will be remembered, you know, post-COVID. We're already having some of these conversations about scenarios, aren't we, post-COVID? You know, how will you be remembered as a leader, as an employer, as a client, you know, through this scenario, and what impact will that have on your post-COVID business going forward? And I think if we can hold on to some of that, you know, that space during this pause about, you know, how we play through this and how we will be remembered for it, I feel that, you know, we can be inspired by that, and yeah, that will help.
I appreciate that. And I think you're right. You're seeing in this period of slowing down, more thought being put into things, more policies being put into place. You know, obviously people can now leverage things like dead stock, waste, unused inventory as an opportunity to sell it, save and make money, and then take that money and put it into those good actions in the future, being more thoughtfully thinking about minimizing waste streams going forward, not just for sustainability's sake, but because it makes economic sense. Shifting gears a little bit from kind of business models and the costs of sustainability, I wonder, Tricia, if you could touch a little bit on some of the challenges that you're seeing with sourcing. You know, in particular, I know there are companies from small to large out there that want to go from conventional to preferred sustainable fibers. And, you know, are there any challenges around them being able to do that? Are there opportunities here, obviously, to work with Lenzing fibers? And one question we got from the audience was, to that point, does Lenzing have plans to create more fabrics using recycled content, potentially like Refibra? What's the biggest challenge in the future with new Lenzing products?
Yes, well, that's a lot of questions there, but let me try to tackle one at a time. As far as sourcing, I mean, we support throughout the supply network, and I'm saying network specifically because I no longer see that we're a supply chain of one link to another link, but we realize now how important we are from beginning to end. And so within our network, whether it's yarn spinners, fabric mills, knits, or wovens, we support the development, and we're able to provide suggestions on where to go to source fabric specific to your needs. And I look at it very much, it's a matchmaking. And that's why when we are working with retailers and brands as they're looking to source what type of minimums, I even think of who people working together would work well. You know, we're not companies, we're in a people business, and connecting the right people to develop and have a common goal of making a certain product. I think we're going to be facing more challenges around quick response, around minimums, because we do see that there's going to be a reset in the amount of consumption. And so the old calendar and the way we've been working isn't going to happen anymore. I mean, we're already seeing this now with trade shows being canceled, postponed, going digital. It's new ways of working. And so, you know, we might have to alter, and you might be looking at a basic fabric that you might be able to assort into different colors closer to the point of actually having to produce that. On the denim side, I'm talking with more brands who are looking at ways that they could finish and do the laser process closer to point of sale. So I think these are the types of flexibility and sourcing that we need to look at. For Lenzing, we have 7 manufacturing facilities globally, so we're able to support whether it's a supply chain in the Far East. We do have production here in the United States in Alabama, and then we also have production in Europe. So we can be very flexible within different supply chains. Specifically for Tencel Liesl, that's been on the market since 1992. And there we've built a lot of supply chains. And then in 2017, we came out with our latest technology, which is Refibra, where we reuse cotton waste in order to make a new textile. So we are taking 30%, it's a mix of post-industrial and post-consumer waste, and making that into a pulp. So we take the cotton, make it into a pulp, we blend that with wood pulp, we add the solvent, and we also add a fiber identification so that we'll be able to have transparency, which I think will be key coming out of all of this time, more and more around transparency. So for Lenzing, we continue to develop and evolve our Refibra. We've publicly stated that our vision for Refibra is to go to 50% post-consumer waste by 2024. So in the next 4 years, we will continue to add more post-consumer waste. And I like to highlight that because, you know, we're reaching a point where the consumer becomes our raw material supplier. And connecting this in textile to textile recycling, that this will happen more. And, you know, the challenges that we have in understanding how to lower our impacts and bring the consumer into a part of this journey. And so we will continue to evolve on the Refibra. And, you know, also very important for Lenzing is to support in the transparency through the supply chain. And we've been doing this not only with fiber identification, but also working through blockchain technology. And here we have a partner that is Textile Genesis. And I just saw a question pop up around Refibra and if it can be recycled. So Refibra itself, in theory, it could be recycled because it's around cellulose going back into making the pulp. But right now we're just using cotton waste in order to make the fiber.
That's great. And you know, I think you just touched on kind of where we were going to, in addition to obviously looking at sourcing, looking at sustainable materials, looking at, you know, potentially where you're producing these things, and how you're doing it and the cost of that. I think there are opportunities also with technology that we really can bring value and take the time now to start to look at and innovate on and develop. We do a lot with blockchain and machine learning as well. I think it's critical for supply chains for transparency and access to information, not just from a sustainable storytelling perspective, but to be able to do business better, to be more efficient, to understand what's going on in real time and how to react to a future period of disruption, which unfortunately there inevitably will be. I wonder, Prama, if you can touch a little bit on how you are leveraging technology to bring efficiency and transparency to supply chains. I know you're doing a lot with an impact calculator. I wonder if you could talk a little about it.
Sure. So we started working with Green Story on developing our impact calculator a while ago, and what we've now been able to do has been quite easy to do because we've always had the transparency and traceability in our system. It's, you know, we know exactly where everything comes from at every stage. So by being able to give them the data of our supply chains, which we don't vary very often at all, we kind of work with the same supply chains for many, many, many years, building long-term relationships. We've been able to basically get a calculation of what is the impact of our supply chain using organic or, you know, partly recycled polyester versus the conventional. So for every single product in our range, we can tell the consumer in a way that is really simple to understand based on, you know, there's lots of metrics we can use. We picked 4 that we thought would resonate with a consumer. And we can tell them that by purchasing this product, this is how much you've saved. And as a business-to-business supplier, that means that we can even tell our partners that it's not just one product you've purchased, you might have bought 10,000 of something, and look at the impact of that by deciding to change your purchasing method to go for something that is more sustainable or preferred fiber versus conventional. So that's been very interesting, and we are we've just developed, like, I think an alpha or a beta version of a QR code. So our products will now be labeled with a QR code. So anybody on the chain, right to the end wearer, can scan a QR code that's stitched into the garment and can very quickly see exactly what the impact is, what the certifications are, what is the justification for using, for example, organic cotton. And then they can actually see photos of every single point of supply we have, of that product being made. So whether, you know, they see the fabric being dyed, or they see the organic cotton field that it's come from, or where it's stitched, they can actually immediately see this is exactly where it is. And I think what that does is it brings everybody closer together. So we're talking about being very interconnected. So, you know, the consumer can feel very connected to the entire supply chain, but also it just takes away the emotion from it. You know, we're dealing with data. This is the data. You might care, you might not, but it's not me making an emotive appeal to you to behave in a better way. I'm just giving you some data. And I think that's been really important, because then it's down to each individual to decide where they feel the importance is of that. I mean, the other thing in terms of technology, and I just wanted to just mention it, is just, I mean, look how quickly we've adapted in such a short period of time. You know, no one's going to the office anymore. You know, we're all working from home, and it's been such a leveler, hasn't it? So, you know, the Zoom calls and the Skype calls that I have with clients or suppliers, or, you know, my colleagues, we've all become much more human. You know, there's a dog in the background, someone's screaming. I think someone's kids are having a bit of a play right now on this call, and it takes away a little bit of that persona that we have in a business sense, and makes us all very much more human and able to connect with each other. And I think that's something that, you know, post-COVID, I can see that happening and continuing. You know, and that whole old model of, you know, long cycles of product development, couriering samples back and forth with approvals and this, that. We've kind of got to a stage where we're like, okay, we know our suppliers, we've known them for years, they know us, they know exactly what we want, we trust you. And technology allows us to say, right, we trust you, this is kind of what we want, you come up with a product and we can just approve it over video or photos or whatever. And that makes us so much more flexible and adaptable and quick to market as well.
Yes, and appreciate that. That noise you heard was my 4-year-old in the background, right? And, you know, but he's why I'm doing what I'm doing. We have to change the world for them and future generations. So, you know, for all of us, that can kind of be our family time and our inspiration for the future, which kind of leads me to the next segment. And I wanted to maybe open it up to Liesl and to Vic on end customer values, right? I mean, the value of sustainability clearly matters from a business perspective, and it matters to those who are here on the call because we already care about it, but to the end consumer or to those who maybe are not in the industry and in the know like us, do they care? Are we seeing consumption behaviors change? I did learn recently that although the sale of pants are down, the sale of shirts is up. So thank you, Zoom, for that, right? And you know, what kind of digital communication are we going to use to raise that visibility? Because we can leverage now Zoom and there's social media, right? And Liesl, you made this great point when we had a call before this and we're chatting about the role social media plays, because you're immediately exposed for the actions that you take in real time and everybody knows everything instantly on demand. So, you know, I'll turn to Liesl and then Vic maybe to comment on the end customer and how they're getting this information.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we are in mainly B2B business, but also we have a small brand called Terra Thread that's 100% organic and fair trade certified, backpacks and other things. And, you know, I think consumers are demanding sustainable products. About 2 years ago, we received a letter from 12 years old girl in East Coast thanking us for making sustainable backpacks. We received a letter from a teacher who teaches science and saying, hey, I am going to different companies asking for some grant and I want to promote your products. We are seeing from that our B2B clients that every day we get about 15 to 20 emails, whether they are small or big, they want to start business. We received call from stores saying that I've been selling this polyester bag for the last 20 years. I know I'm making money, but my heart is not there. Can you please make sustainably made, biodegradable, ethical products? And I think consumers are demanding, it's growing. Like Fairtrade USA has a campaign to all colleges and universities. There are, I think, 160 universities that are Fairtrade certified now. They talk all day about fair trade and ethical production. And media is talking like you know, a lot of people who are in power, who have, you know, like followers, and they are definitely helping us and everybody to spread this message. So this is definitely growing. This is going to grow. And what I understand talking to our like-minded partners is their business is growing at this time. We have a good online presence. So I think this is going to grow. But if you allow me, I just wanted to touch about the sacrifices that we need to make a little bit at this time. At this time, I think we all are making sacrifices, whether it's consumer or farmer or workers or anybody. But I definitely think that the brands and businesses who are in a better state than others should make some contribution to supply chain at this time. Because without supply chain, you are nothing. There is no business, there is no sustainability. If the farmer doesn't grow cotton or the farmer doesn't make you know, your products, there is no sustainability. So, you know, cash flow is going to be a major problem for farmers and factories. We need to support farmers at this time more than ever. If we don't support them at this time, they are not going to grow organic cotton. Because, you know, right now they have to sell at the lower price, lesser than conventional cotton price. And as you know, that, you know, the yield of conventional cotton is much higher, right? So this begs the question, what you are doing about it. It's fine, I mean, we can talk and all this. So Gallant is a private label company. We help, you know, different brands to meet their sustainable goals. But we are in it wholeheartedly. So what we are doing right now, our farmers in India need $90,000 right now to grow 6,000 metric tons of organic cotton. They don't have money. So we had a meeting other day, and we have raised $45,000, $25,000 from Gallant and Gallant's partner factory, Rajlakshmi. Dabela India is giving 10,000, Armstrong is giving 5,000, and Kuisi is giving $6,000. So that's $45,000. If we are trying to raise money through brand partners and the donors. If we are unable to raise that money, Gallant and his partner Rajlakshmi Cotton Mill will contribute another $40,000, so they have money to buy organic cotton seeds. So this is our contribution that we can make small. So another thing that we are doing is in 2009, we are very fortunate to contribute about 227,000 meals through Feeding America to poor children and family here in America. This year, for the last 3 months, we have almost no business. We are all suffering, but we are not going to cut off that fund. We are going to continue giving because they need even more now. So now when it comes to factory, factory is big. There are 4,000 workers. Their operating cost is like more than $600 to $700,000 dollars per month. I'm not there to contribute in a big way, but we are trying to find a way so how we can contribute to individual workers. You see, so we are trying to find, because we cannot support only 150 to 200 people who makes bag for us, but there are other people also contribute. When we have bigger orders, all those 4,000 people or at least 2,000 people will work together to make our products. So this is our contribution. I think brands and businesses doesn't have to be big, especially I think result us in the organic cotton. We need to help them. They've been there for business 10. It takes 3 years, to transit to organic cotton, and if we don't support this time, it's going to be very hard. So that's my take on it, and I hope I didn't say too much.
No, I just follow up with that. I think it was really, I think you're one of our heroes. You're expressing the needs, you're looking for the solutions, you're looking how you can work downstream and upstream to bring this together. And Stephanie, just to sort of answer your question, which I think, was good to hear Vic first. And this was entirely my own thinking. I have not done any proper scientific analysis or statistical review on this, but for me, my sense is that, when Rama Plaza happened, there was this, huge swell of social media. We all discovered that, millennials and beyond could use their mobile phones, and there was a lot of, I guess, personal passion and that kind of ability to express it through social media, and that was something that was quite different. And I sense this time with the coronavirus, there's a bit of that going on. There's a bit of sort of holding brands to accountability and that sort of thing. But what I'm seeing more of is this real genuine opportunity to connect and find solutions. As Vic said, they're very challenging and there's plenty of them, and it's overwhelming to think about it. But I don't know if you've heard of the Generation C, this Generation COVID, and I sense there is this movement that is happening where people are looking to find solutions, connect with others, feel almost a permission to bring this into their life and bring their life into their work. I mean, they're working at home, there's everything's up in the air at the moment, and I think if we find that place within us, and we're with the like-minded people that are also reflecting, then that will feed into the needs that the solutions that we need to find. Because it sounds optimistic, it sounds a bit fantastical, but we've got this opportunity right now, and that's what we That's what we can use it for.
You're right. And I think we saw fashion do that when they rallied so quickly to start collecting materials, making masks and gowns for PPE immediately and shift gears based on the need. That community, that effort, that rally and cause was powerful. And so, of course, we all know the facts of how polluting fashion is to the environment and the world, but that also means it has the power to solve these world challenges and these world crises, especially when you come together. I want to be mindful of time, but in the last 2 minutes, I just wonder if each briefly, if you wanted to touch on any thoughts about the future, whether it's the role of Bangladesh, local versus global supply chain, small brands versus big brand opportunities. Maybe we each briefly could make a prediction on what you think coming out of this will be an opportunity. Anyone want to start? I throw it out there.
Shall I start? I'm
sure.
Mute. Finish. Yeah, I mean, something that's kind of not part of my everyday job, but thinking about how online sales can tap into a lot of opportunities. You know, we know there's a lot of challenges as well, but just to put, since I'm playing Mrs. Optimistic at the moment, if we think about the good things, there's the opportunity for smaller brands to get their product to market. There's obviously lots more opportunities for business to continue that cash flow that Vic was talking about. And there's this also exciting opportunity to think about what we would do in our public spaces if they're not going to be dominated by, you know, shopping malls in that sort of very condensed way, but how do we reclaim some of those public spaces and the beautiful fashion that we want to wear and show and be together in, but rethinking how we do business and this technology platform that could actually be super supportive there. But others in this call know a bit more about that as well. So that was my throw out.
Yeah, I would just take that, Liesl, and say, you know, because there is such a reset and it's back to the foundation. And I just want to highlight, you know, back to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And as we look at how we can integrate not only defining sustainability within the environmental impacts, but also the social impacts. And I think out of this time, we've definitely realized from going back to our health and wellness being so important. I remember when I first, you know, came home and went into lockdown, it was all about, okay, how do I keep myself, my family, extended friends and, you know, colleagues, make sure that everybody's safe and healthy. And so I think when we go back to where we need to rebuild out of this, it's let's utilize the Sustainable Development Goals. That's why they were set.
Thank you. Prama, any final thoughts?
Gosh, I've got so much to say, so I'm going to try and talk really, really fast. I think just let's go back for a minute and let's just think about the origin of this pandemic. And the origin is really about a complete disregard for nature. So, and I'm talking particularly about the meat industry here. So we disregarded, you know, how animals should be treated, shipping animals all over the wild animals all over the world, coming into contact with species that we shouldn't. And if you look at previous epidemics of SARS, of Ebola, and even here in the UK, you know, mad cow disease, for those of you old enough to remember it, it was all based around a disrespect around nature, and in this particular instance, animals. What's our next crisis going to be? It may well be tomorrow we're in an environmental crisis. We've got 60 years left of topsoil. And if we continue with intensive conventional agriculture, where is that going to lead us? It's going to lead us in a very, very dark path, I think. So from not just a hearts and minds, but from purely a risk management perspective, we all need to think about nature. And I think we have all in this, you know, as Liesl said, this pause, have really felt the difference in the nature around us. You know, we're seeing massive drops in pollution, we can hear bird song again, you know, the streets are empty. And I think those are things that we really have just realized that these are things that we value, and our priorities have been reset slightly. Suddenly, it's not about buying loads of stuff that you don't need. It's, you know, is my family safe? Are my colleagues safe? Can I go to the park? I really love my outdoor space suddenly now. And so I think those sorts of shifts are going to change our consumption patterns, and we'll start thinking about, you know, really, what is it that I what is it that's important? And in terms of sourcing, just to add to what's been said already, I think we're seeing everyone's changing very, very rapidly. So, you know, if you were only sourcing from China, the lockdown has affected your business massively. And so we're seeing an increased diversification of supply chains. So, you know, if all your raw material was coming from China, then again, you're also in a difficult place. So we're diversifying. A lot of people are nearshoring now, but also looking at, you know, more diverse regions. And Liesl and I work on a group to promote African supply chains. And that's one of the things we were talking about the other day, is actually this is a moment for, you know, regions that perhaps are not traditionally looked at as sourcing regions to really come up and develop. Certainly the factories that I speak to are, you know, facing a very tough time. And so the usual minimum order quantities are dropping. You know, they will remember who has, you know, their buyers' behavior once this is over. They will remember. Yeah. And so they're much more willing to work with smaller brands who they feel are trustworthy. And I think it changes the dynamic massively. You know, that sort of old dynamic of I'm the buyer, I hold the power. I think that sort of, you know, it's not relevant anymore. Our suppliers are our partners. We you know, without them, we haven't got anything to do. We rely on them completely. And so, you know, I think that dynamic absolutely has to change. And I think that, you know, we will also see much more engagement in health and safety for workers. You know, the social distancing, can it happen? Is it happening? How does it happen? So, you know, definitely we're seeing most of our suppliers are downsizing massively. So you might have like 2 production lines running and one will be empty so they can socially distance a little bit. It's, in my opinion, not enough, but it's something. And, you know, we have a chance here to, like you said, promote the small e-commerce brands. So, you know, we're the largest supplier of baby wear into the imprint industry in Europe, for example. Baby wear has soared. Like all those sort of online, like baby wear retailers are doing brilliantly. And going back to the COVID generation, I think, you know, 7-8 months from now, there might be a lot of babies as well.
Yeah.
So, it's time to look at new markets. You know, what we're doing is we're very quickly producing organic cotton face masks that are produced in Portugal, and part of the cost of production, not sales, production, we will donate to Médecins Sans Frontières, because actually it's the people, you know, the medics and the frontline workers in the developing countries have far less resource than we have. And we're all kind of competing with each other as countries for resource and forgetting about the ones that really need it. So, you know, it's just very, very quickly thinking strategically, and just we have an opportunity here, you know, and a crisis brings an opportunity. We have an opportunity to really reshape things, and I'm quite like Liesl, I'm quite optimistic, I suppose, but I think we have a chance to do it, and it would be a waste if we didn't.
I appreciate that. And Vic, I know quickly, I know we're out of time, but final thought, and then we'll kick it off to Akil to conclude.
No, definitely. I just wanted to say one thing is that I think we have to spread the message of sustainability more, using through media or celebrities or other journalists, because, you know, as you know, people watch 20 million times Kardashian fighting. I mean, I love them. It's not that I don't love them. They watched cat video 20 million times, but we don't have much followers in this space. So I think we have to come up with some kind of messaging, some story or something that is direct and that's more appealing, so that more and more people are involved and they buy less, but they buy sustainable products or used products. And that's all I wanted to say.
Appreciate that. And I think we're seeing that together we can change the world. Akil, did you have anything we want to conclude with?
Well, I'd just like to say, wow, first of all, thank you so much for such an amazing panel. So many amazing things that came out of it. Gen Z was certainly a surprise for me, not heard that before. But Again, thank you for the panel and the audience. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was a very active discussion in chat as well. So it's really interesting to see. And there were a ton of questions, and I know we couldn't get to all of them. So the ones that we couldn't get to today, please keep an eye out on social media and the other panels, and we will elaborate on that. And with that, I'd like to just say thank you to all the panelists, to all of you who are attending, and yeah, have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
everyone.
Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys. Take care. Bye. Peace.